Ciao, I'm Jenny, and this is Ruthie Ann. Today we're telling you how I travel on a budget. Okay, now I'm here with Lola because every time I hit record, they suddenly wake up and jump off the couch, and you can hear their paws all over in the background. So, hola! The first and most important factor in traveling on a budget is choosing the location. And there are two things that go into this. One, the cost of living. Okay, if I live in the US and I go to Canada, the US and Canadian dollar are almost the same exchange rate, and the cost of living is very similar. So while it's not going to feel like super expensive, it's not going to feel like a cheap vacation, that is for sure. What you have to do is find a country that has a cost of living that is a lot less than where you are from, and that, my friend, is where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. So most places in Central and South America, a lot of places in Southeast Asia, and that is the extent of my knowledge. You can find lots of videos on YouTube about the cheapest places to travel, so I'll link a few below for you. The other most important factor when it comes to making or breaking your travel budget is the flight. So one, how far are you going? Is it like a common destination where you can get a good deal on a flight? So if you're going from, let's say, St. Louis, Missouri to Moscow, Russia, that's going to cost you a pretty penny because it's literally on the opposite side of the world, and St. Louis is not like a major airport hub. If you're flying out of Chicago instead of St. Louis, then the cost of your ticket is going down. If you're flying somewhere closer, just south to Mexico, then that's going to save you a lot of money. Let's say you are flying into Mexico, it's going to be cheaper to fly into the most major cities like Mexico City, Guadalajara, Monterrey. I believe those are some of the cheapest three. If you're going to fly into a smaller major city like Puebla or Querétaro, which are very major cities in Mexico, just not when it comes to the airport, you're just going to have to get a connecting flight to get to the smaller major cities, so it's going to make the cost of your ticket a little higher. And anything that's very, very touristy, like Puerto Vallarta or Cancun, you can usually get very good vacation package deals on those. That's not my forte, so I'm not the person to ask about that. So let's take a look on how choosing a country whose cost of living is very low compared to yours affects your travel budget. Most of my examples are going to be from Mexico, since that's what I'm most familiar with. I will try to throw in a few examples from other countries I visited as well. The low cost of living is going to affect the cost of your accommodation. In Mexico, you can find hotels for 10, 12 bucks a night. Is that going to be smack dab in the middle of Mexico City or smack dab in the middle of Puebla? No, but if you're in a small town, for sure. If you're outside of the city center, sure. However, I personally don't use hotels that often because I try to stay more towards the center of the city to save on things like transportation, so it's more walkable or there's more access to public transportation. So I've stayed in hostels, which usually average 10 bucks a night. You can maybe even find them for 7 or 8 if you're willing to share a room, like bunk bed style. Or more often than not, I stay at an Airbnb, usually $10 to $12 a night. Again, this is like in the actual city, not on the outskirts of the city. The most I have ever spent on an Airbnb outside of the US is $18 a night. This was in Guadalajara, and it was like in the fancy district. So it was worth it because I was going to be able to walk to do my swing dancing, walk to the vegan restaurants, so I felt it made sense given the location. I don't have as much experience with this, but couch surfing is also an option, providing they survived the pandemic. Actually, let me check before I continue with this part. Okay, it looks like couch surfing is still up and rolling. It is free, guys, free. But the idea is kind of that you're going to be there for just 1 or 2 nights, crashing on the couch or crashing in the spare bedroom. This is not typically something you would do long term because who's going to let you just live there for free? However, if you reach out to the host and explain your situation, they will probably be happy to arrange for you to pay a small fee to stay longer term. Even better is a free long-term accommodation. How do you score that? You have to make connections, make international friends. My first time going to Guadalajara, I met a friend named Rene, who happened to move to Mexico City before I was going to visit. And so he let me crash at his place. I did leave him some money to cover like the extra electricity and water, but otherwise it was free. When I went to Quito, Ecuador, I stayed at my now ex-boyfriend's mom's apartment that she had there for free because he was with me. So it wasn't like an awkward situation where I felt like I needed to leave some money. And then once he returned to the States and I moved on to another city, then I did stay at Airbnbs. When I went to Bangalore, India, I also got to stay for free with a friend. The next way that a low cost of living destination is going to help you is with the cost of food. I try not to eat out all 3 meals a day, but it is cheap enough that if I do, I don't feel guilty about it. But usually I'll try to pack some cereal or oatmeal or buy it once I get there for breakfast and then eat out for lunch and dinner since I'll be out and about anyway and I don't want the expense of coming back to the accommodation and then going back out to continue my adventures. But in both Mexico and Ecuador, and it's been a while for India, but I'm pretty sure it's the same, you can get a full meal for just a few bucks, like $3 to $5 at the most, and you're eating like a king. I mean, we're talking the drink, the entree, a dessert, and like they're hooking you up. It's not like some little side salad, like a full course meal. Next, let's talk about transportation. With the exception of the US, and I'm not sure what other handful of countries, most countries are very pedestrian and or bike friendly. So you're not going to have to depend on renting a car or finding public transportation at all times. You're going to be able to find an accommodation in a central location and walk around for the most part. If not, the rest of the planet, for the most part, has great public transportation. For example, in Mexico City, they have the metro. You can get from one end of Mexico City to the other with all the transfers that you need for about 25 cents. And they also have a great bus system. Lots of cities do have a great bus system. In Mexico, they also have something called combis, which are kind of small passenger vans for areas outside of the large cities. The Ubers in Mexico and Ecuador are super affordable compared to the US. Getting around Guadalajara, Quito, Mexico City, Guayaquil. Where else did I go? Cuenca. Cuenca, I didn't need an Uber. It was super walkable. Most of the rides averaged to about $4 US dollars. And FYI, in Ecuador, they actually use US dollars. If you're from the States, I do recommend visiting Ecuador because you're not going to lose a chunk of your change by converting currencies. My last tip is when it comes to activities. If you're going to a resort town or something that is super touristy, it is going to seem expensive whenever you're going to go snorkeling or scuba diving, renting a jet ski, that sort of thing. If you're going somewhere slightly less touristy and not so beachy, a lot of the museums have 1 day a week that is free, or if you do go on the day that it costs, it's like a couple bucks. When I travel, the purpose is not to relax and unwind. It is to learn the language or maintain my language skills of the country and to learn about the culture. So I don't necessarily need to go do activities that cost money. I can just make friends and roam around with them. They are so helpful in explaining, hey, this over here is blah, 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 or did you know, or this is how you say that. And that to me is far more rewarding than most sites or activities that you would have to pay to visit. You can also learn so much by just walking places instead of getting a taxi, Uber, or taking the metro, because while you're walking, you're going to notice things that otherwise you wouldn't have seen. You can sit down at the park or sit down in the city center and just observe everyone and everything around you. You might notice, oh, so that's how they greet people here. Or, hey, I noticed that the women aren't wearing X, Y, or Z. It's an easy and free way to pick up on small cultural cues. And finally, which is not my forte, is using points and rewards, that sort of thing, to get free or discounted flights. When I went to Ecuador and flew American Airlines, they announced that if I applied for their credit card, I would get I forget how many miles, but it was enough basically for 2 tickets to most destinations, like the western part of Europe or Central South America. So I did that, and it was true. I got those points. There was a fee I had to pay, of course, when booking the flights. Then I'm like, well, if they offer this, maybe another airline offers this too. So I found the same thing with Delta, and I also earned the equivalent of 2 free flights. I still have 1 more flight I can use. If you are not responsible with credit cards, I do not advise you to take them out because you're going to end up paying more in late fees and interest than what your flight was worth. This is only good if you only spend what you make, only spend what you were going to spend to begin with. And then my last recommendation is the Hopper app. I'll put that in the description box below, but you can find amazing deals on there, and they will let you know like if they anticipate the price going up or dropping, so you know when you're getting the most bang for your buck. And I found a great deal to Ecuador using the Hopper app. I appreciate you guys watching today's video. If you have any more travel hacks when it comes to budgeting, please let us know in the comments. We'll see you in the next video.